Hi, thanks for joining me today for Let's Be Creative with LBC. So in my last video, we explored masks, the kind you can, the disposable paper masks that you can get at Costco, to see what kind of things we could do to personalize them, make them unique, and make them our own without a sewing machine. And so what we did last time was watercolors, we did some stamping, and we tried a couple of different things. Well, between wearing them, and they are disposable, so I can't reuse them, and also having fun with the process, I thought I would do some more. So I revisited watercolors, and so this is one that I made with watercolors and a rubber stamp. And so with the rubber stamp, my tip that I have for you is you get the ink on your stamp as you would normally do. You want to stamp it onto a piece of paper, it's called stamping off, and then go back for more ink and then stamp it on your mask. That will give you better coverage and a more successful stamped image. Then I used watercolors, just children's Crayola watercolors, to color it in. It turned out really pretty. I don't know if you can also see there is sort of a blue wash on the background. That came from the food coloring that I used, and I'll tell you more about in a little while. Another one I did a second one with the flowers in the vase, and I used color pens instead of watercolor paint, and that's pretty also. And then I also revisited stamps, and so I think I told you I really like pigs, so I stamped a little piggy on it, and then I used pink stickles. I used pink stickles to color in the pink parts. I basically poured it out onto my work surface and then used a Q-tip to paint it onto the stamped image. And then I used watercolor paint to color in the ears and the little grass so that he has his dimension. Super cute. The next idea I had was to try and put a smile on the mask. I used an oil pastel, I tried with a Sharpie that's more controllable, and I wanted to paint a smile on the front of a mask because you can't see when someone is smiling at you with a mask on. Well, I didn't really do very well with that. Between the ridges in the mask and perhaps operator error, I didn't really find that I got the result that I was looking for. So then I printed a smile. I went onto Google Images and I grabbed this image. So there is a smile, a very cheesy smile right there, and I used a little Mod Podge on it to hold it down and make sure it was down in both places, and so I have that. This is basically an image taken off of Google Images that I saved to a Word doc and then printed in the size that I wanted. Following that same idea, here's another, and it has a smiley face. So there, the smiley face is in the house when I'm out and about, and you can see that I'm actually smiling. And the last one's a little bit ridiculous, but I printed it very large, and so I'm going with it. And it is big lips. So I think small children might be freaked out by this, but you get the idea of the different things that you can do by printing some images and gluing them on. This one I just used a glue stick and put it on a flat part, and it has stayed on fine. Remember, these are disposable masks, so one time you wear them for a day and then it goes in the garbage, and so why not try a few things? What do you have to lose? The last thing I wanted to do was try out tie-dyeing masks. I didn't have any RIT dye, which is what you typically use to tie-dye, so I looked around to see what I had that might work as a tie-dye kind of thing. And what I found in my cabinet were these food coloring containers that I have had since who knows when. One is neon, the other is traditional colors, and so I thought, let's see what I can do with those items. So the first one I did with green food coloring was I just sort of splurped it on and ran it around to see how much color would saturate. So it's a little bit on the ear holders, and you can see a little bit of green, kind of a little camo. it needs more color. The next thing I tried was definitely kind of came out with a camo-esque look. Little pink ears, and I used blue and diluted red to create this effect, which I will show you in a minute. Then what I did was I tried being a little more directional. I don't know if you can see the stripes on here. It's a little hard to tell, but I poured some food coloring into a bowl. Let me just show you how I did it. Poured a little food coloring into a bowl. Doesn't take much. Put it on my finger, and then I basically, with my finger, painted on the stripes across the top in the empty spots. So it looks pretty saturated right now. It won't stay that way. It'll soak into the mask and be very light. So if you want it to be more pronounced, then you'll want to come back over it when it's dry and put on another layer. A couple of things to tell you is, one, you might want to wear gloves when you do this because it is a little bit messy. My fingers are kind of stained from doing this. I'm not wearing a glove because I don't mind, and it will come off. It'll come off in a couple of hand washings. But this, you can already see, is starting to soak into the mask, and it won't be as bright as it is now. And then I used a fine brush to paint hearts on, also using red food coloring. Okay, so that was that one. This one is sort of a constellation kind of effect. I probably should have just splatter painted it, maybe go outside and splatter paint the top of it. That would have been easier. What I did was I painted just with straight food coloring with swirls on here using a small paintbrush. And by the time it dried, you can't really see the swirls anymore. So I can go back over that. Another thing to tell you is, if you're not happy with how the mask turns out, you can run it under the sink and all of the food coloring will come out. It will dry at some point, so this wouldn't wash out, I don't think. But if you don't like the effect that you're getting, rinse it off and start again. So the last thing I wanted to show you is the messy part, and how I kind of went about getting the tie-dye effect using a safe product, which is food coloring, and making it look tie-dye. So I think I mentioned that it's messy. So let me just show you a little bit about how I did this. So I started with a dollop of blue food coloring on the top of the mask, kind of let it rub in a little bit, and then I crossed over to rub it on another part of the mask and just let that rub in a little bit. Then I added some red, and then I'll do the same thing, cross it over and rub it in, and I add, these are the colors I chose. You can choose whatever colors you want. That's yellow, and I'm going to rub it in a little bit, and then I'm going to put a little here. I'm going to use my finger to put a little there, and I'll just keep adding color to it and rubbing it in different spots to, I don't know, not really blend the color, but to give that kind of tie-dye look. Remember doing tie-dye? And so this is an in-progress piece. This is the one I was working on that is almost done. And again, it just gives you a sense of tie-dye. I will add a little bit more color, but it'll definitely give the effect of tie-dye without using actual dye materials, and something that is fun and disposable. So, thanks for watching. Keep smiling, especially under your masks. Have some fun with this. While you have to wear a mask, you might as well be creative and have a good time and explore some different possibilities than you might have done before. I would love to see your ideas and projects. Send them to tsawyer@lutherburbankcenter.org or post them to this page. Stay safe.